Welcome to the walkthrough of frequently made mistakes for Assignment 1A in my CS891 course in the spring of 2023. First, please comment your code thoroughly, or your code will not be reviewed. Second, please don't remove the to-do tags since it makes it hard to review your code. Henceforth, submissions with these tags removed will not be reviewed. Let's start talking about some of the common problems I saw. This is just a simple issue, but please initialize local variables by calling something that actually initializes them, like webutils make get request list, rather than assigning them to null and then immediately assigning them on the next line. Let's take a look at a problem that was in the components file. Don't use key set here, but instead use entry set. If you use entry set, then you'll have a stream of entries, and you can use those entries to get the key and the value very quickly and in constant time, rather than what's being used here, which is using the moviemap.get method, which has to go and do another hash lookup. Also, please use toList here instead of collect to list. And then finally, please write this code so it's chained together in a fluent style. So rather than storing something here as a local variable and then later returning that variable, instead just chain everything together, of course commenting all the lines thoroughly. Let's now take a look at some of the issues with the movie sync proxy class. So there's no need to use the query param call here because you've already added the query string as the final part of the path. So you don't need to do it. This is incorrect and inefficient. Down here, this call is incorrect. You should be using a query param to add the queries to the query string, or to add the query string rather than doing it the way that's done here where you're putting it in the path. That also will not work properly. Down here, yet another problem. You need to use the webutils list to string call since what's shown below uses an inefficient encoding model. And also, please make sure to write your code so it doesn't run off the screen to the right, and also make sure you comment what's happening. And if you don't have it run off to the right, if you format it more like this, which is going to be a lot easier to read, you can also comment it appropriately by putting comments where things need to go. So those are some common things. A lot of people had that issue. Don't make your code run off to the right-hand side. You'll see that comment appear several times below. This is the wrong way to pass the queries parameter. Please take a look at the Barra quote example we went over the second day of class to see how to format this properly, but this is not the right way to do it. Down here, again, there's another issue. This implementation is just very, very inefficient and complicated. Please follow the pattern from the Barra quotes example that we discussed in class, which shows exactly how to do this. Also, please use toList instead of collect to whatever's shown here, which is way too verbose. Just use toList, much more efficient and concise. This code down here is also way too complicated and inefficient. And once again, take a look at the Barra quotes example we discussed in class and make sure you follow that pattern. Moving our attention now into the movies controller class, this is the wrong path name to pass to the get mapping. Please take a look at the Barra quotes example for search movies to see, or for searching a list of things to see how to do that. And this is also the wrong parameter here. You want to pass in the appropriate type here. So this one has to do with something called a path variable, so make sure you use the right annotation. And once again, the Barra quotes example shows you how to do that. Please use the constants rather than the hard coding strings. You'll come back to thank me later when you start making changes to your names and everything breaks because you haven't been using constants consistently. This code down below is also using the wrong get mapping router string here. Once again, please take a look at the Barra quotes example and follow the pattern that's shown there. Something very important is missing here in the parameter list. Please see the Barra quotes example, follow the pattern here. And also, don't put business logic into controller methods. Have them just forward to the service. Once again, take a look at the Barra quotes example and follow the pattern shown there. We cover all these examples in class for a reason. That's to give you good patterns to follow. So make sure you watch those videos and make sure you come to class and ask questions if you don't understand what's happening. Now we're taking a look at the implementations in the movies service class. Please write this code in a way that's more concise and doesn't require the use of the enclosing curly braces. You can do that by basically just having this call chained together here. Once again, please use toList instead of collect toList. Down here, make sure that you use the right terminal operation. You're using the all match call, which should not be the right one. You should be using any match instead. Down here, please replace this call to a local method num in title to use any match, or if you want to, you could put the code that doing the stream any match call into your local function. That's fine too, but what you had there was inefficient and too complicated. Down here, this is also more complicated than it needs to be. I recommend using any match because it's just a lot more concise. So those were the problems that I saw when I reviewed the code. Some people did not submit their initial submission, so I didn't review it. Henceforth, if you do not submit your initial submission, then you will receive a 0 for the assignment. So make sure that you follow along with the instructions, make sure that you use the Google submission form properly, and also make sure that you do everything by the deadline.